Well, if you're anything like me, as soon as you found out about the North Sentinelese, you've been obsessed by them, scaring to death for every available piece of information, wondering, where do they poop and where? I am legitimately fascinated by that. Where do they go? Is it just outside a camp? Do they dig little toilets? No one really knows, do they? Actually, no, because here's a little teaser. My podcast, Friendly Geordie's podcast, Ali, the guy who does it with me, the know-it-all, who seems to know every single fact of life. He's the best person ever to go to pub trivia with, unless you have to ask him about really obscure questions about Neighbours and Home and Away from the early 2000s. He's terrible at that, which is a shame because that's pretty much 70% of pub trivia. But everything else, he's got the answers to. One of his friends is an anthropologist that works in the area. So if you want more information, I certainly do. I haven't heard yet, but he has it. He has the scoop. So listen to the podcast. It'll be coming out in about a week or two. I don't know when it happens. Basically, it's a very offshoot project. I mean, he's always the one that's going, please, man, for the love of God, we've got to do it on Tuesday. Baby, I don't even know what day it is anymore. I live like the Sentinelese. Maybe that's why I have such a strong bonded connection with them. I hate technology. I hate people. If I could throw a bow and arrow in most of the people that enter my door, I would. The thing is, there's a lot of things that we can learn from these people. Especially the fact about the genetics, first of all, before we get into any of the self-helpy stuff. I love this. The least advanced civilization on Earth. This is how you get ahead, from lessons from the Sentinelese. But there's a few things that we've learned about them genetically, apparently. Well, they're offshoot cousins because every time we go anywhere near them, you get a spear sandwich. Pow! Their traditional dance. But the ones that are closer to them that are a lot friendlier, the Jawan people, apparently we've swabbed their mouths. We found out from DNA that yes, they are the direct descendants from people from 100,000 years ago that left Africa, which is pretty impressive, I guess. Why are they so short, though? Musings. Why? I do like that about islands, how it just makes these tiny little pygmy people, but man, have you seen them next to a normal-sized human being? Dwarves. Middle Earth was right. But they also have figured out that along the way they thought that they kind of just wiped out every other species of hominin that they could find and any other race of human being, but they're finding traces of other humans in those people, which means that they definitely fucked around. Which raises another question. You know how in the census, how they're saying that there's only about 15 Sentinelese left, and then there's some estimates that go, nah, there's 500. I suppose it's like Mexico City though, isn't it? There's a lot of, you know how everybody always just goes like, Mexico City's anywhere between 50 and 100 million. But if there's only about 15 people, that would also include old people. Maybe the Bible's right. Maybe we did only descend from two people. Who knows? But they don't look that inbred. You know how there was those other guys that came out of the wilderness in the Amazon, I think it was in 2014? They looked like they were fucking their sisters for a long time. But the Sentinelese, they're kind of hot. Every time you see that chick come over and drag the guy away who's really excited the coconuts are getting thrown there, I'd tap that. But look, there's all these ideas about them. There's so many questions that I have, but I think that there's something that's really admirable of them, which is that they enjoy living a simple life, and as a result, if their cousins are anything to go by, the Jawanese people, they're extremely happy with it. They seem it. I mean, when they were getting coconuts, most of the little kids were doing little Michael Jackson dances. I don't care that much when I get a H2 Cocoa, except for the fact that I look at the back and go, Kyle Sandilands invented these. Wouldn't that be amazing if you did actually traverse through North Sentinel and got to their little hut village, and right in the centre of it is this carving deity of Kyle Sandilands? They really like coconuts. You have to see the footage of it with the first peaceful contact of them. how excited they are for drinking something that isn't turtle blood. And the things that we need to learn from them is that when they are given gifts, the only things that they take are the things that they can utilize. And when they gave them a pig, all they did was run over to it, slit its throat, and bury it. They didn't even want to know what bacon tasted like. I don't think they can, actually. I think they don't have fire yet. Maybe another 60,000 years. It must freak them out when it thunders. That's the other thing. Apparently in 2004, when there was this... I'm very obsessed with these people now. It's just so interesting, isn't it? Imagine having no contact with the outside world for 60,000 years. I suppose they wouldn't, because they're not the tree from Game of Thrones that probably only live 50 years. But what if they didn't? We don't know. They have been having no contact with the outside world. So the things that they want from the outside world are really basic utilitarian things. The only gifts that they've accepted: dolls, not interested. Little artifacts, don't care at all. When they got toys, apparently, the kids freaked out. They didn't want anything to do with it. They're like, oh my god, it's a small person. They're gonna shrink me too. But the things that they did want was aluminium pots. When there was a ship that wrecked over there, they started using the iron to fashion arrows. So we've just blasted them straight from the Stone Age to the Iron Age in the span of 20 years. And that's what they're using. Apparently now is pretty scary being a helicopter that flies over trying to look for the bodies that they kill. Because they can kind of do some damage to a helicopter now. As a result of that, they also are interested in coconuts. Those are the three things that they give a shit about. And it's because they know that they can use them. Also, they started taking hatches off of the ship that was abandoned there. And now they're using them in their huts. Nice little door with nautical themes. They basically live in SpongeBob SquarePants' house now. And what I think is useful to utilize about that is, if you look at footage of Javanese people, happiest people on earth. The most poignant quote that I remember of theirs is that they said that, I'm always dancing because I'm always happy. Isn't that an incredible life? And I think that there is some merit to that, which is that a simple life is a good life. There's a lot of complicated and unnecessary things that most people do in their day-to-day life, which are, at the end of it, distractions that make you feel gross. The best example is obviously what we were talking about in the last video, which is Facebook. You never feel good looking off after that. Isn't that gross that now you spend a lot of your time doing something, mesmerized in it, like you're a moth looking at a light? And it's not even that fun. Farmville? That sucked. Anyway, maybe that's why they're not interested in agriculture. There's all these things in your life that encumber your mind. And the thing is that the human brain is designed for how the Sentinelese people live, which is to just gather food, sit around, dance. Very few simple subjects. And the human brain, there's some counterexamples of this, but in general, the average person can only think about 12 things. Most of your thoughts are just 12 subjects and your brain thinking about them over and over and over again. And in the modern world, you're inundated with all this useless information, such as the fact that there's still people that haven't made contact with the outside world, i.e. what I've been looking at for the last 2 days obsessively. Do I need to know that? Not really. The only thing that you can gather from it to utilize from there, but thank you so much. In exchange for those shitty pots that you wanted, Sentinelese people, you've given us a lesson, which is that you need to simplify, man. And how do you do that? One of the most valuable questions that they teach in self-help is, what could I stop doing today that would make my life better? Again, what could I stop today that would make my life better? A lot of self-help is the art of saying no, much more than it is saying yes, because that is it. In any field, there is, as I've said 1,000 times on this channel before, there's only 3 things that you need to be focusing on. Most people focus on infinite other things that are completely useless and do nothing but distract your brain, your very simple, primitive, tribal brain, from really mastering those 3 subjects. That's why it's always critical to be taking stock of your life, what you're thinking about, and how you can eliminate those things. It's why, even when you get to CEO levels of a company, obviously you know a lot about the inner workings of it, but You only focus on a few subjects, even as the CEO of Amazon. That's why you're delegating everything out to other people so they can focus on 3 things and they can focus on 3 things. That's how a sophisticated corporate structure works and keeps functioning. It's just very specialized people focusing on a few things. That's their tribe, as it were. How lame is the modern day tribe? How much better is pygmy guys with little shitty arrows shooting turtles, as opposed to now just going, how do we get books to India? Anyway, I suppose it's impressive in itself. Knowledge is its own reward. But I still really like the idea of just sitting around on a beach all day, shooting dugongs. They had it coming. They're not mermaids. They tricked us. Yeah, so what you need to do is really, the biggest lesson that you can learn from the uncontacted tribes, of which apparently there's 100 left in the world, which is way more than I thought. I thought it was just those guys. What you need to learn from all of them is they aren't interested in the useless gifts that they're given. You should be the same as that. Only be interested in things that are practical, because if you are interested in things that are practical and that you see that it is going to help you in making your life better in the future, that is something that you should be latching onto. Most people don't. Most people latch onto video games. They latch onto makeup tutorials. They latch onto shitty TV shows like The OC that they're watching still to this day. Come on! It was 15 years ago. I'm pretty sure the main character who was 30 at the time, pretending to be 15, is dead. You need to be able to look at those things. I want you to take stock of it. And if you're really game, this is your homework. Your homework is write down 3 things that you know are a waste of time, and I want you to come up with a way that you're going to get rid of it. Now, the easiest way to get rid of it is the video that was 2 videos before this on the most serious subject we've ever discussed, which is No Nut November. And you might think that I'm joking when I say that, but I'm talking to people who watch a lot of YouTube. It's really hard for them not to nut. YouTube is only 1 word away from YouPorn. And the way that you're going to do that is to just make a firm decision to cut those things out of your life. Once you make the decision, once you say in your head, I don't want to do these things anymore, you might continue to do them for a little while, but you should be rewarding yourself by reducing it significantly, because over time, your brain will realize, why was I spending all that time doing that? The brain basically just keeps doing what it does because it knows that it hasn't been killed in the past for doing it. So it knows that while it's watching Oblivion, it goes, oh gosh, run! Oh no, wait, that wasn't me. That was the avatar. All right, let's play again. But after a while, if you're able to wrench yourself out of that, remove it and move on to something that is practical, that will help you, i.e. if you're, I don't know, learning to become an accountant, doing Accountant 102. I don't know anything about accounting. I clearly don't know anything about accounting. I'm pretty sure that my accounting is done by some of those Sentinelese people. Even to me, it looks like I'm getting ripped off. But, you know, you've got to figure out what you're doing now that is a waste of time. Take stock of it, and be like the Sentinelese people and slit its throat. All right. I'll see you next week.